my loves, welcome back. I heard all of you. Everyone wants to know how to save time when you cook. So let's jump right in. The first tip is the tried and tested meal prep. Not having to get our knives and chopping boards each time we want to cook is a time saver. I food prep twice a week, and with that I save myself about 20 minutes to half an hour of every meal. So what is the best time to prep? I do one session when Paul comes home from the farmer's market. That's when I wash and I put things away in a way that makes sense to me. I do short life veggies like greens in one drawer and cruciferous ones in another. That way I actually know how much I have to use and how fast. The second session is actually much less work because the veggies are already washed and trimmed. So it's just about chopping and storing. I like to do this while I wait for my dish to bubble and simmer. I have some free time and I put that to use. This way I also stay close to the stove and I can keep my eye on my dish. Now I like to go a step further because we have a multi-chef home, and I also prep condiments and sauces so my mini adults can get out one bottle or container instead of 4 or 5 to blend it themselves, and this saves them a lot of time. The second tip is to have your ingredients ready. They can still be in the refrigerator, but they should be ready for use. Fetching things, thawing meat during the cooking process can not only be time consuming, you might also end up burning your dish while looking for or prepping the ingredients. So this includes keeping frequently used items near your stove. You can get more information on this tip in a previous video, and I will link that below. Now tip 3 is to batch cook. You can easily double up your recipe and freeze one portion for later. Similarly, instead of serving leftovers the very next day and hear the family moan and groan, just freeze it and take it out a week later, give it a fresh garnish or freshly bake it, and it's brand new. No more moaning and groaning. Furthermore, batch cooked dishes that can be served in more than one way, such as this marinara sauce, will also save you a session or 2 of cooking, and that's time saved. Now, tip 4 is of course to wash as you go. Don't leave pots and pans for later. That becomes a separate and dreaded chore of its own. Just do it as you go for productivity, and it helps keep your kitchen clean. It takes less time, less elbow grease, and less fuss to get it done immediately while still cooking. Similarly, rinse or soak your kitchen towels immediately to avoid staining. The more you bleach and use strong stain removers, the sooner the towel will fray. So just wash it immediately. It'll save you a lot of time and fuss. Now, tip 5 is if you have missed out on meal prep or decide to make something out of your meal plan, like a request from a family member or an unexpected guest, then in order to save time, you should prep in order of usage. Instead of spending time prepping everything before you cook, just collect everything. Now, this is very important so you don't overcook while collecting. So collect everything, prep your base like onions and garlic, cut veggies that take time to cook, and while those are cooking, you can cut other vegetables and things like mushrooms towards the later part of the cooking time, and then work on your garnish and condiments towards the end. On this note, also remember that if there is vinegar or lemon juice in a condiment, make that first and put it in the fridge so those flavors can blend while you do other stuff. Now, tip 6 may save you a few minutes each time, but every minute counts, so put on a low flame below your pot. Allow the pot to heat while you collect the ingredients. You can also add oil and allow that to heat while doing some prep. And this is going to save you even more time when you're heating oil for frying. It takes time to get it to the right temperature, so don't waste time waiting around. And you can also save time because your food starts cooking the moment it touches the pan if the oil in the pan are hot. Heating also extends to your oven. Preheat your oven for best results in terms of cooking speed and texture. Similarly, salting your water when boiling pasta also helps reduce cooking time as it raises the boiling point of the water. For more time saving, put a lid on pots when boiling. You save time and it's more economical. To save time while boiling eggs, lentils, and beans, add some baking soda for quicker cooking and the shell comes off faster. Tip 7 is to follow the recipe to a T to save you time in the long run. While you're winging it, you're apt to add too much or too little of a certain ingredient, meaning you're adding extra work and time to balance your flavors later on. When you're first starting out in the kitchen or trying out something out of your comfort zone, trying out a new recipe, follow every word of the recipe and your meal will turn out just like it's supposed to in the recommended allotted amount of time. You're not going to waste time adjusting it. So follow the recipe to a T. Tip 8 is in relation to meat. Transferring meat from the freezer to the pan will only waste time in the long run. Bringing your meat to room temperature first will help some of its external moisture evaporate, meaning you're not wasting time as that condensation steams off. Better yet, room temperature meat will cook more evenly as opposed to cold meat, which will cook rapidly on the outside but fail to heat up sufficiently inside before the exterior is overdone. So if you like cooking with chunky meat, use a mallet to remove excess moisture and soften the meat for faster cooking. And you can also use a meat tenderizer such as yogurt. In tip 9, let's talk about compound butter and herb oil. While these are great ideas for a sustainable kitchen if made at home, these store-bought ones can also save you cooking time. These flavors are already infused and therefore they will be flavorful and aromatic as soon as these touch the heat. Time saver. Tip 10 is more of a cooking tip, and that is the use of water. I personally like to add a little extra water to my sauces, soups, and curries and then allow it to reduce. I find that this helps it cook more evenly and therefore faster in the long run. I also find it faster to use broth or stock instead of plain water. It is less time consuming than getting the exact proportions of flavor from individual flavorings. I also find it makes better food to add sugar at the end to avoid any caramelization unless that's what you're aiming for. Tip 11 is to invest in a kitchen thermometer and a weighing scale. Both these gadgets take winging out of the equation and therefore allow you to cook better food with less stress and more success. Now, this may seem obvious, but tip 12 is to have sharp knives. You can save lots of time chopping. It makes so much difference and is also safer for your fingers. Test on a tomato. A sharp knife allows you to slice the skin with ease. A sharp knife will also allow you to cut smaller pieces, which in turn will cook faster. Tip 13 is to use the right size of a pot or pan. Too big, it's a waste of heating energy. And if you crowd the food in a tiny pan, you will increase the cooking time and probably not get a good result. So use a pan that is suitable. And if you want to save even more time, try making one-pot meals. Less washing required and more time for other activities. Tip 14 is to line your racks with aluminium foil, parchment paper, or silicone liners. I've had these for a while now, so you can see they're pretty worn, but I use them almost every time. And this saves so much time in cleanup, especially if you're baking something like cheese and it tends to bubble over. It will save you so much time to just use these mats. You can also use aluminium foil to cover the top for a more even cooking without burning the surface. And tip 15 is instead of wasting time leaving butter out overnight or melting it in the microwave, making it super oily, use a grater to help it soften faster. Grating frozen butter makes it easier to spread and incorporate into recipes, saving you time along the way. Now, these are my 15 tips for today that I know will save you so much time while cooking. I have many, many more ideas because I spend a lot of time cooking. So these help me spend less time in the kitchen without compromising on our meals. Let me know how many of these tips you will use, how many you already use, and let me know if you want more. And with that, until the next video, this is Raveena saying, happy homemaking.